So hello, hello, hello. Thank you so much for watching Very Thoughtful Podcast. Thank you and welcome to Very Thoughtful World. So today I'm super excited because I get to hang out with a sister friend that I just adore. You guys know I am big about surrounding myself with women who are doing amazing, bold, and audacious things. And so I think of Kavita as one of those ladies. So I'm going to let Kavita tell us what she's doing right now because I promise every time I talk to this beautiful, amazing woman, she's doing something new and I can't always figure it out, but I know that she's making impact in the world, and that's what I love about her. So hi Kavita, thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Kanisha. I'm glad to be here. What am I doing in the world? Well, showing up is the first thing. So I'm really, really happy to be able to say that, it's being appreciated that when I show up, change happens. And now I'm trying to work out what exactly it is that I'm doing that makes that happen. So officially, we've given me the title of Global Education Coach, meaning that I work with schools, learning communities, just generally communities all around the world that are on a journey, trying to really think about, okay, where are we today? Where do we want to be? How are we going to get there? What is it that what kind of conversations do we need to be having? What questions could we be asking each other? Really sort of focusing in on, okay, if you're in a school environment, what's working, what's not working? Do we have our priorities straight? Are we thinking about the fact that as humans we're social emotional beings, and so are we taking care of those social relationships, that emotional well-being, and then directing the learning towards that, towards all of us feeling good about our gifts that we're bringing to the world. Robin Wall Kimmerer talks about how we're born with unique gifts and it's our responsibility to share them with the world. And that's kind of the focus in schools. In communities, it's similar, but extended, because the communities that I'm working in are struggling to meet their basic needs. So right now, the project that we're working on in Kenya is to support the Ma people, the Maasai, in southern Kenya, where they've been finding themselves in situations, particularly the drought that happened last year since April, where they've barely got enough water for themselves, let alone their cattle, let alone to grow things. So that's really sort of the second part of the work. And the third part of the work is supporting young girls, because sadly, we've I think it's common knowledge at this point that there's gender inequality when it comes to education all around the world. But in certain parts of the world, there are really horrific practices going on in terms of relationships between men and women that just cannot continue. And so I'm now working with an organization that's going to put an end to that by supporting women to become more independent and everything that they need to be able to do that, whether that's knowing themselves, self-awareness, whether it's having a mentor, or actually cold hard cash. So lots of projects.
Kavita, I love everything you said, but I will say I want to talk to and ask the question for the person who's sitting on the other side who's thinking, how do you do that much? Like how do I find these organizations where I can be a part of? You just said you work with a group in, you said Kenya, with the, how did you get there? Like where are you now? What country are you sitting in when you say that I go and I work with schools and these organizations to help water, and then I help women? How does one woman do so much?
Thanks for asking. So right now I'm standing in London, which is where I was born. But I spent the last 4 months in 7 countries. And so, yeah, travel, I've definitely got the travel bug, and you and I met in Beijing, right? So, I think I've really been sort of living into that idea of like, okay, the world is my oyster, like I can go anywhere, do anything. And so yeah, the pandemic was tough on me, but but yeah, so it's in terms of sort of how am I doing it, honestly, it's really a case of like putting on my big girl pants and going, I can do anything, it's fine, I'm just gonna do it. Like, I care about this and I'm going to make it happen. And I am literally making it up as I go along. Like, I'm literally like, oh, you know, my school experience wasn't that great. And I hear other people saying their school experience wasn't that great. And kids are telling me that too. So maybe I can try and do something about it. And so, you know, let me show up at a school and see what happens, you know. And so it's really sort of been a case of, okay, let me join the webinars, let me join the, you know, sort of various social media conversations, let me try and see what's up. And then people get interested in what you're saying, you know, because you have to obviously have an opinion on things as well as be curious so that people know what you stand for. And yeah, just keep sort of pushing that sort of edge for yourself, you know, where you're like, okay, yeah, do I really think that? Okay, well, someone challenged me on what I said. So let me go and do some research. Let me go and read something, listen to a podcast, you know, find out if that still works. So in terms of where I'm doing the work, yeah, like the places in terms of the buildings and things like that, you know, that's how it's happened really. But in terms of geographically, the Kenya connection came about because a friend of mine who's a literacy consultant was doing a book club. I joined the book club, loved the author's work, could hear her voice just coming through, and I was like, I have to meet this woman. So my friend said, actually, I'm going to meet her. Do you want me to introduce you? And I was like, yes. So then I met her, and Katie and I have become good friends now. And then she and I discovered that we were both keen to support young men, actually, from a couple of countries in Africa. And one that she's supporting is from Kenya. So the four of us all met together. He shared what he's up to in the world and his aspirations to see Kenya grow and, you know, progress and all of these kind of things. And so from that relationship, he introduced us to the Maasai community in Kenya, and we've gotten to more deeply understand their situation, their assets, their history, you know, all of the things that are going well for them, but also, you know, some of the needs that they have. And so I've sort of been invested in this relationship now for 2 years. And it's really been well supported by a foundation in Paraguay, which, you know, was introduced to me by my partner. So, you know, like he'd been talking about that organization for some time. And, you know, and then when we sort of started exploring, like, okay, you know, like what could we do? You know, what is our skill set? You know, how can we support? And so I guess the third part of the answer to the question is knowing yourself, you know, knowing what your skill set is. I'm not an engineer, right? I can't go there and drill a well, right? But I can help to tell the story. I can help to, you know, have everyone be able to express more concisely, look, this is what's going well for us. This is what we need support with. This is why. This is what we're willing to do for ourselves. This is, you know, where we reach a stumbling block, you know, so all of that kind of thing.
I love it. That is amazing. I just really take all of that in, and I'm hoping what women hear when they see this is that one person can make a difference, and that it's not as hard as they think. Not to say that what you're doing is easy, because I know it's not. But what I mean is, like you said earlier, I just show up, and having that mindset and that heart to show up. But you also said, I know my skill set. And because you said that, I have to ask you, what is your superpower?
Well, it's funny that you asked that, because in the last year or so, people have been telling me, and so then I now have this really cute animation that we made when we were in like a kids museum in Australia, and what people said to me was that you're a connector, and
Mm,
so that's connector of concepts, ideas, and people.
mm,
So the ideas part really sort of is the umbrella, I guess, for the concepts and the people, right? Because it's like, okay, when someone says, oh, you know, I'm thinking about, and then another person says, oh, I'm thinking about, or in the same conversation, one person says, oh, you know, this, oh, I heard, da, da, da. It's like, yeah, so you could do this, right? Like that means like, come on, like, like, don't just like, be all loosey goosey about it. Put them together and make something happen. And so yeah, so it's been really fun to sort of hear people explain to me, like, oh, okay, that's why we value sort of hanging out with you, because you can make things clear to us that we can't see because we're in it, right? Like sometimes when you're in the weeds yourself, you can't see beyond, you know? And so
Yeah.
then it's like, okay, having me walking alongside them kind of helps them to see, okay, well, all right, like, yeah, that does make sense. Yeah, that connection works. And sometimes, it's like, no, it's not that, it's this. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. That's fine too. But whatever it is, let's try and connect, those concepts together and all the people, because one thing I really want to sort of acknowledge is that none of this has been achieved on my own. If I didn't have the support of my partner, if I didn't have the support of my family, if I didn't have the support of the family that I chose for myself, I wouldn't be able to do it. And, from that has come, from the family I chose for myself has come my first official co-creator for Globally Reconnect, with Sam. He's, in Kenya, on the ground, doing the work, building the relationships. And he's the reason we had such an amazing experience when we were in Kenya in November, December last year, because, the trust was transferred,
Yeah.
the respect that he'd built for himself and for us, and, between us and the community. I mean, yeah, he's just an amazing human. And I'm so happy to be able to say that he's part of the team. But yeah, we do it together.
Good. Man, that's awesome. What is it that you think women should know, particularly when starting a business? I can think about the time. I remember how we first met. And I remember you kind of going through the program. And I remember that switch. Do you remember the switch? Do you think of
Mhm.
this? You did like at the time the program was called what? Purpose, passion, something, right?
Mhm.
I
Yes.
think. And I always remember when you said, you helped me to see that I don't need anyone like permission. Like you was gonna, because I think at that time you was going to leave China, but then you found like because you had done the program, you began to understand like your purpose, your gifts, your talents. Right? You said you was able to find a company that aligned with that. And so for a while,
Exactly.
you stayed a little bit longer. But it sounds like you've even taken all of that information and just gone even broader. What was the benefits for you to really get clear about what your gifts and talents were, and how did you come to recognize who the people were you wanted to serve?
And I think that those two things are definitely an important part of any woman that wants to start her own business, right? Because when you know yourself, then it's so much easier to express that to others so that other people can understand what it is that you're offering them, right? Because like, you know, there's a point at which rapport is great, like you're chilling, you're hanging out, da, da, da. But when you want to start moving into like fundamentally a transactional relationship, right, and you want to maintain that friendly relationship but then move into that transaction, then like if you don't have that clarity, it becomes really difficult, because like yes, people by people, and they need to justify things to, board members and colleagues, and so what is the value add? And so I would say that that was the main advantage to me to do the work for myself, because it's like, okay, if I know that I can communicate things clearly, if I know that I can connect ideas and concepts and people, if I know that I stand for trust, freedom, and integrity, if I
Mm.
know that, for me, love comes above all, like it's just, yeah, like I would rather be in this kind of friendship relationship than a transactional relationship, because, one will suffer for the other, then that's what I would do. I would choose friendship over everything. And so, yeah, so, it makes you stronger within yourself. Like you, as I say, you know what you're standing for. So, so that's really important. Yeah.
I'm glad like you really cleared it up, because I think a lot of times when we in that place of uncertainty, it is knowing, you said those three words. What was it? Trust, integrity,
Freedom.
value, freedom. Like you, because you're clear about those three words, and people don't understand the power of words. And so one of my goals is to really expound the emotional language. So we've been blessed with, and we haven't talked about this, but we've been blessed with, because I wrote this book. Kavita, I thought I was just writing a little book, cute little book. This book has become a curriculum. The curriculum is in the work, a social emotional learning. And I have a class that I'm going to start teaching next week about that, because what I know that is important is when we can begin to expand a person's vocabulary, particularly their emotional vocabulary. Because people probably don't even think of freedom as an emotion or high
But it,
need or value. But
yeah.
understanding that, right, it points you into way to go. I remember years ago reading, I think it was Tony Robbins, when he said, when you know your values, decisions become easy.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I've chosen the three things that I'm doing this year, right? And, before we started recording, I was like, yeah, things have changed again. Yeah. But, so I am still working things out. And the choices that I'm making are based on what do I value. And, for me, yes, trust is essential because, like without it, you can't be in relationship with another person if you can't trust them. It's not a real relationship. But the freedom element is quite wide, because with freedom comes responsibility. And one of my favorite writers, Umberto Maturana, he explains responsibility as thinking through the consequences of your actions for yourself and for others, and choosing to take a positive action as a result. And so when you are exercising your freedoms, are you thinking through the consequences of those actions? Are you thinking through the consequences for yourself, for others? And are you doing something positive? Because if you're not pausing long enough in that freedom, then, you're not going to be able to answer all of those questions, right? And so for me, like everything that I'm working towards is so that young people can have that freedom, right? So that adults can find that freedom, recapture that freedom for themselves. And so then the planet can be free, right? Because, unfortunately, we still live in a world where we're doing bad things to living things, and so, whether they're human, animal, or plant, right? It doesn't seem to matter. There's bad things happening. And so, in order to have hope for the future, I really, really strongly believe that, yes, like we have to understand that there is an emotion behind the things that we value, and how to equip ourselves and our young people with those words, that understanding, that practice, So, yeah, a big part of the work that I'm doing currently in one of the schools in China still is around that socio-emotional well-being framework of like, okay, middle school kids. They just want to hang out, do what they want, like whatever, that's the stereotype, right? But actually what they really want, they're telling us, is to feel connected. What they're telling us is that what they really want is to be seen, to be acknowledged. And the third thing is actually connected to your book, which is they want to be celebrated. One of a group of them explained to us at a school in Australia that the reason why they love social media so much is because of the fact that you get likes, and so you're getting celebrated all the time. And they couldn't remember the last time a teacher said a positive comment to them. They were like, all they ever do is give us feedback, which is constructive feedback. That was okay, but that was okay, but all the time. And they're tired of it. They're just tired of it. It's
Yeah.
like, can you just lift me up sometimes, and not on special occasions like graduation? So, yeah.
That's good. And I'm so glad that you all are there to provide that space, and to listen, and then also to convey that to hopefully administration and the teachers to be able to hear that also. That's what I'm hoping to do, because I don't think, again, people understand the power of their words. and we can move so kind of lackadaisical through life. You know me, my word is just being not awakened, like just everyone is asleep. And then they, when they wake up to recognizing that they individually, we all have one so much power, so much influence, and then to awaken to the fact that there is so much power in what we say, how we're saying it, who we're saying it to. And I'm guilty. I mean, I certainly have used my language to hurt, but trying to be more intentional about listening better, even in something as in my personal life. And I'll share this because somebody might need to hear it. Like my daughter is identifying as non-binary. So I have to learn all these new terms, right? It's like the other day she was sharing me some stuff. I said, girl, you might as well be talking Chinese. Because she's using all these terms that I don't know. And she's like, Mom, I'm going to point you in the direction of who I am, but your job is to learn the terms.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the compassionate part. And as a Christian, many of us struggle with this whole homosexual. But here's what my resolve has become, Kavita. And you might think, well, what does that have to do with it? It has everything to do with language and love and trust, like you said. My resolve has been that I believe, and I remember I used to say it, that my children weren't mine. Never thought they were mine. I always thought that I was just blessed with the opportunity to bring two souls to this earth. Who am I to tell the soul who they should be?
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard and it's difficult, and particularly in light of, the scriptures that we read. However, what I do read, my greatest, and you said this too, is love.
Yeah.
Our greatest commandment is to love.
Yeah.
And so loving does not mean I love you, but like the kids say. It
Right.
doesn't.
It doesn't.
Loving doesn't mean I love you, but I got to correct you. I love you, but I got to give you, instruction. I love you, but I got to tell you you're wrong. No, I'm just going to love.
Yeah.
Because here's
Yeah.
what's beautiful about life is it will correct you. It will correct you, won't it, Kavita?
Yes.
It will
It will.
bring you back to the path that you're supposed to be on as long as your heart stays open.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
And so
I
that's me.
agree.
And so I want to be amongst people like you and your partner and what the work you all are doing and going into those schools and prayerfully making a difference where the teachers are starting to say, I'm just going to love without the but.
Exactly. Exactly. And the thing about it is that the level of vulnerability that you're modeling is, we need more of that, right? Like, I mean, I think everyone in the world at this point knows Brene Brown, right? And she stands very much on that, right?
Right.
Yes, I've gone back to her podcast. I didn't realize she'd restarted after her break, but yeah, so I'm catching up with her. But she really expresses it really, really well. That with that trust comes vulnerability, and it's a bit of a chicken and egg, right? Like, is it that we learn that we trust or are trusted when we show vulnerability, or like how does it come about? But we all need to be able to be that way, because that's how we get to keep it real. Like, the authenticity matters so much. Like, you can tell if someone's faking it. You can tell. And I just frankly don't have time for that anymore, because there's too many real people, that are awakened. And that's, I've really sort of realized that these are my people. The people that show up and are like, oh, I'm so sorry, like this happened, and oh, by the way, can I go and put my bra on? Like that kind of thing. I'm like, yeah, okay, these are my people. So
Yeah.
it's really, really keeping it real. And yeah, I think that, and with the language, again, it is our responsibility to adapt and to expand our vocabulary, and to awakening involves all of that, in all situations in life, to be open-hearted to a different way of being, to a different way of sort of moving through the world. And yeah, this idea of like, do we own our kids? Well, do we own any human? Do we own anything in the world, really? Nothing
Yeah.
goes with us, right?
Mhm.
Nothing goes with us. And so, how can we say that we own another human? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, that kind of takes me back to Egyptian times of I don't know whether they're true stories or not, but the idea that they would say that, oh, their soldiers need to come into the tomb with them or whatever, the pharaohs and stuff. And I'm just like, really? Like that cannot be a thing. But like that's why we have the terracotta army warriors, right? That was the story, that he wanted to take his army with him into the tomb. And people are like, yeah, maybe we make models.
Yeah, because
But
anybody
yeah.
trying, anybody trying to stay here with your crazy button, you did. And that
Yeah.
the thing I'm learning, and I'm so open to, is I want to. The Bible talks about being free in Christ. I don't need my freedom to create bondage for you.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
I
Yeah.
just don't. I just don't. And I'm okay. Like if you need the bondage of thinking I can't do, I won't do, I will, you can have that. My freedom says I can do all things. I will do all things. I can make a difference. Love covers all. Like I am in that part. And
Yeah.
it feels right in my soul. Like I'm learning, Kavita, that the emotions can't lie.
Mm-hmm.
Our mind can, our thoughts can come up
Mm-hmm.
with but those deep and like this weekend I was saying with the kids, because Bryce is like, I don't know whether to do this that'll secure my future financially or this that will heal my past and help other people heal. I said, which one brings you joy? And he
Mm-hmm.
says, I want to heal my past, but I'm afraid I'm gonna be broke. I said, broke, you will never be broke. That doesn't foster brokenness. I said, but I promise you, if you pursue this and there's no joy in it, you're gonna be broken.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You're
That
gonna
is
be
a
broke.
very
So I'm trying to teach them early, and I wish someone would have taught me this early. Is you pursue joy. Wherever joy is, I tell wherever joy is, wherever peace is, wherever love is, that's where God is. And if you just choose from that place, and it may not make sense to anyone around you, and you're going like, Lord, I don't even know if this makes sense to me, but I'm going to choose from this place. You will find that the doors that you need will open, and they will open so big and so wide, and you'll go, I'm so thankful I said yes. And that's what I
so
pray for for the women who will watch this, who will glean anything from this, is that they will begin to get clear about their own values, right? Forget what the world says. Because
yeah.
Kavita, some would say, how can you do this? How can you travel the world the way that you are? Right? And make such a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing, part of it is finding my people, right? Like maybe I'm not going to find my people, on my street or, like in my community or whatever. Maybe I need to travel. But you know, we've really been focusing on freedom a lot. And, one of the things that we're focusing on within that is freedom of speech, right? And I guess I want to acknowledge the fact that we're recording this on Martin Luther King Day, right?
Yeah.
And he's probably the most famous person, free at last, thank God Almighty, free at last, right?
Mhm.
Like, I don't think that's a coincidence. To me, this conversation is divine because of that, right? Like we didn't know that this is where we were going to end up,
Right.
but for to remember that speech that he made, that has gone down in history as one of the best speeches that has ever inspired humans, around the world, really. I just I just really, really think that, when he was saying the words that he was saying, that's really what he was looking for, right? He was looking for peace. He was looking for joy, and it was all based on his faith,
Yeah.
right? On the faith that humans are capable of achieving peace. And for me, I wrote my vision as co-creating a harmonious world in which all living systems can flourish. And I wrote that because I believe that's possible. I believe that together we can do that. I believe that, harmony is possible, because I'm not looking for a straight line conformity type life, right? Harmonies are created with all different kinds of instruments and music, like, of my love of dance, right? So
Yeah.
like, but the in which all living systems can flourish means that I'm saying, yeah, like, we need to reconnect to the joy of living, reconnect to the joy of learning, reconnect to the joy of loving. And like living, learning, and loving are like my three personal values. I've named my business values differently, but like, for my personal values, it's love above all else, and the fact that learning is living. Because,
Mhm.
if we pretend it's any other way, if we pretend that living is getting, your ducks in order and just doing the same thing again and again and again, I'm sorry, but that is not living.
Dying.
Yeah, that is, like doing the same thing over and over again is what I call the death knell of learning. Oh, but that's the way it's always been done. Like, inspires me to start clapping. I'm like, a learning prairie is dying, a learning prairie is dying, right? Like, like I'm just like, no, no, no. But like, at the end of the day, we really need to recognize, okay, what does help me to feel alive? And
Mm.
I'm sure that the wisdom of young people, where they've said that, we want to be seen, we want to be connected, we want to be celebrated. Yeah, I think that that's a pretty meaningful life right there.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
And how beautiful that at such a young age they have the language to say that, they're bold enough to say it, because the truth is, even as adults, we want those same three things. We want to
Mm-hmm.
be seen, we want to be connected, and we want to be celebrated. And I know for me, I remember when I would come home, because when you live abroad, it just expands your world, your view of life. It offers you so much. I like to, sometimes I try to find words. It's like food, right? Like sometimes people are like, how's your day? I'm like, delicious. And I'm just like, delicious. I'm like, yeah, because it's just delicious. But it's expanded not only my thinking, but my heart towards people. And I remember one time I came home and I said, I just want to be around people who celebrate me. And this lady looked at me as though to say, how dare you? And I said, listen, it's okay if they don't. Just understand, I won't be around them the second time. Right? The first time was enough.
Yeah.
Who don't want to be celebrated? Who doesn't want to be seen? Who doesn't want to connect? And that does come from being real and true and honest with yourself in such a way that you're willing to protect who you are because you know who you are, and not conform to who people think you need to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm really glad we had this conversation. It's provided some inspiration because I've set myself a challenge to make a LinkedIn post every working day this month. And I was like, what will I write about today? But like, it's everything you said is so true, because everybody wants to feel that way. And not everyone feels like they have the freedom, the capacity to ask for it. And that's the saddest thing. There's so many people walking around in this world today that are too afraid to ask. And I appeal to you, like, to everyone, please do not expect us to be mind readers. If there is something that you need in this life, you've got to tell someone, because no one is gonna help you to get there if you don't ask.
That's
Like,
right.
you have to ask. and
Yeah.
um and I understand that that takes all kinds of vulnerability and everything, but the rewards outweigh that little bit of discomfort of like,
Mhm.
like, this is really difficult, I don't want to, no, 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 but like, what will you get when you do? And I'm sure that you have been celebrated multiple times over, one, because you deserve to be, but two, because like, you asked, right? And so people knew. And I know we mentioned her already, but Brene Brown talks about that in her podcast. I think she's talking with her two sisters, and she's like, oh, my husband didn't know how we celebrate birthdays in our house. And so that first year, when he didn't go overboard, like make a big fuss, da 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 da, And like, you know, he made his point. Like, you know, he sold his guitar to get her a shirt or a skirt or something that she wanted, you know, whatever. Like, you know, he understood that this is a need for you, and I am
Mhm.
going to do what it takes to make that happen, while they're both, you know, just racking up student loans rather than working, right? You know, and so yeah, so I think we've got to get brave enough to ask. We have to find the courage to do that.
Yeah,
No one
but
else gets to
I
tell you.
think that happens when you do the work
Yes.
yourself so that you can be clear about what you want. When I did a speaking engagement and I said from the stage, all of my dreams have come true. And that resonated with some people, but some people was bothered by that. But from in a curious way. And it's like, how's that possible? And I said, you never asked me what my dreams were. Right? Because you hear that and maybe you assume my dreams were your dreams.
Right.
But my dreams come true, Kavita, because when I thank God I finally got clear about my dreams, not the dreams you would think I would have. And so
Yes.
there's room for them to come true. And it's like
Yes.
knowing what to ask for. You know, there's three things I do, and I did it this year on my vision workshop. Is I said I gave the people I think like 3 minutes, but normally in a regular environment you get longer time for that. But 30 things you want to do, 30 things you want to have, 30 things you want to be in 2023. And when one of the ladies did it, she says, I have never done this, and this has changed everything. Yeah, because how can you have what you want when you don't write down what you like, when you're not clear about what you want?
Exactly, right? Like it's
People just
really,
about what they don't want.
yeah, that's the thing. That's the
Yeah.
thing. That, you know, knowing how to switch from what I don't want to what I want. But, you know, also, like you say, right? Like being able to write it down, being able to express it to someone, like it just makes all the difference in the world, because there is someone that's just waiting in the wings on your, you know, the stage of your life, waiting to make that happen for you, and you're not asking, so they don't have permission to come on the stage with you,
Right.
right? And so like, you know, like it really is just give someone a chance, you know, like people want to see each other happy. They really
Right.
do. I have to believe that people want to see you thrive, to see you flourish. And so give them a chance to help you, to make that happen for you. You know.
You guys have heard it. Kavita says, give them a chance. Give us a chance. Give us an opportunity to make it happen for you. So if you're at that place in life where you're thinking, really want something to change, I really want to make an impact on this world, you now know two women who we have at least, I call it like bold and audacious enough to give it a try. So, oh, if nothing else, let us know what it is. And maybe we can, if we don't know the answer, we can point you in the right direction. Because that's the wonderful thing about moving in your purpose. Once you get to like connect to what those gifts are, God, love, universe will push you right in it. There's a quote by, I can't remember the man's name. He wrote The Alchemist. The quote is in The
Mhm.
Alchemist.
Alcohol, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, when what is it? That the world will conspire. Have you heard that one? Like the universe would conspire. Like when you know what it is, when you know the vision and dream, the universe will conspire to help make it come true. And that encourages me and it keeps me going. So I hope that it keeps you going. And Kavita, I want to say thank you so much for coming on. And I love you so much. And
I
I
love you
pray
too.
all your endeavors like be multiplied.
Thank you. And for you as well. I really reflect that back to you. I love you too. And all your endeavors will multiply as well.
Oh, thank you.